Hyundai Kona review: as quirky as it looks? What on earth is a Kona? It's Hyundai's new little crossover. Before you accuse it of having an odd name, Kona is a place in Hawaii, helping this fit in with Hyundai's naming structure for its SUV-type things, reasonably adventurous American places. Beats a boring letter and number combination, anyway. While there may be convention in its name, there's very little in its looks. You can accuse just about any little crossover of trying to emulate the Nissan Juke's success, but this is the first to do so with the same, deliberately punchy styling language. If the Kona had arrived with Nissan badges, you'd probably accept it as the Mk2 Juke. Some of it looks familiar. None of it is hugely original. The grille is Audi-esque and there's a reasonable amount of Jeep Cherokee in there, though I think it all comes together quite nicely. Some will be put off entirely by its looks, but I like that it resembles nothing else in the Hyundai range. This is a crossover that isn't merely a supermini which has been jacked up an inch or two. With good reason, too. It's not based on its equivalent supermini, the Hyundai i20. It sits on an all-new platform which can accommodate an electric powertrain or four-wheel drive. This is one of the few cars in its class with a genuine 4WD option rather than just some fancy traction control. That platform also helps elevate the Kona above many of its rivals when it comes to handling. It rides quite firmly in town, something you could accuse of many of its rivals, too, but the payoff is that it's quite entertaining when you're out of town. More so than a good chunk of the mini SUV market. Is that relevant? Fair enough. Most people will never drive these things with enthusiasm. And softer suspension for town use might have been a more useful priority. But I really like the sense of fun in this car, the fact it feels like an individual product, not merely a small hatchback with added ride height, two-tone paint and frivolous roof rails, though it has all of that, too. Pick the 118 bhp 1.0-liter 3-cylinder turbo, as most will, and you'll find an engine that's pretty keen, making the same appealing little warble most of these little triples do when pushed, while its steering and suspension feel like they've been set up by people who get driving. It doesn't object to being thrown around a bit. Hyundais are usually pretty good at feeling thoroughly developed, but until the i30N hot hatch, rarely have they ever been much of a laugh. The Kona is the next car to buck the trend. It's notably more fun than a basic i20 or i30, and the second most appealing Hyundai to drive. Just imagine if they went a bit mad and put the i30N's 271 bhp 2.0 in it. A Kona, if you will. That would be silly. Perhaps. But the Kona's surprisingly keen chassis makes it a more convincing car than the Kia Stonic. Logic would suggest two similarly sized crossovers launched by related companies in the same month or so would feel very familiar. Let's call it VW Group syndrome. Inside, they do, with prosaically designed but ergonomically tidy interiors and solid build quality. But while the Stonic really is just a